As otherwise. It's day one of higher passenger capacity in public transport in Metro Manila and nearby provinces. Some drivers, however, went over the limit. And streaming giant Netflix knows how to play, now launching its first set of mobile games. More Filipinos were out of work in September despite Metro Manila's relaxed COVID-19 restrictions. The latest statistics show there were 4.25 million Filipinos who lost their jobs. That is 370,000 more from the 3.88 million in August. The rise in the number of jobless peaked at 8.9%, the highest so far this year, when the Statistics Agency began holding the labor survey on a monthly instead of a quarterly basis. The Philippine Statistics Authority says retailers, malls, schools and government added jobs in September in sync with relaxed COVID-19 restrictions. But those gains failed to offset job losses in other key sectors, including agriculture and manufacturing. Farmers lost jobs because of unfavorable weather conditions and the end of the harvest season. Factories also shed jobs, especially makers of clothing, apparel, bread and carpets.
Mayroon tayong MSCQ nung September 1 to 15, tama kayo. Tapos nung September 16 to 30 ay nagkaroon tayo ng pagbabago, naging alert level 4. Yung malaking nag-contribute kasi, I showed it kanina, yung ating agriculture sector, no, dahil dun sa weather. So isa yon sa mga contributor bakit bagyang tumaas yung ating unemployment rate. So may mga ibang underlying factors aside from the stricter restriction.
But for the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, another reason for the rise in unemployment was the so-called no jab, no work policy, which the labor group claims is implemented in a number of establishments. It says the practice is discriminatory against those who are still unvaccinated. Meanwhile, Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Chua says September's figures were expected. He explains most areas in the country were under stringent and blanket quarantines when the survey was conducted from September 8 to the 28th. Chua says better numbers may be expected this October with the full impact of granular lockdowns in the capital region. Now, the 70% passenger capacity limit on jeepneys, buses and trains in Mega Manila begins today. But as our correspondent Rex Remita reports, many drivers were caught violating the policy early on.
It wasn't yet sunrise, but many public utility vehicles were already full of work-bound passengers. Unlike in the past 20 months, when PUVs were almost empty due to COVID-19 travel restrictions. Beginning today, jeepneys, buses, and trains are allowed to fill 70% of their passenger capacity. The increase is seen to alleviate the plight of a transport sector reeling from soaring fuel prices and to accommodate more commuters as more businesses open up. As expected, there were many violations, like this driver caught overloading his jeepney along Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City.
Huwag naman natin abusuhin ang binibigay sa atin. Nasa inyo pa rin po yan. Huwag natin itakbo yung jeep pag ayaw nila sumunod. 70% pinayagan sila. Kaya lang tingnan nyo po sa loob, meron pa nakaupo sa gitna ng jeep, which is a violation na po yun.
But enforcers let them off with just a warning. After all, it was just the first day of the policy's implementation. But they vow to issue tickets in the coming days as drivers become more familiar with the guidelines. Indeed, there was some confusion, like this driver caught exceeding the 50% allowed capacity for UV Express units. He thought his van was included in the 70% passenger capacity limit.
Kaya kayo pinara kasi puno pa rin kayo. Hindi po tayo kasama sa 70% na capacity. 50% pa rin po tayo, ha?
Passengers were also reminded about observing physical distancing. Their shoulders must not touch, must always wear face mask and face shields, and no phone calls. Bus passengers were not allowed to stand along the aisles. While safety marshals made sure physical distancing was observed in MRT coaches. Officials say they expect a higher number of passengers in the coming days.
Mas magiging stricto kami sa pag-i-implement ng ating mga minimum health protocols, ano?
Commuters meanwhile have different takes on the new policy.
Siyempre, mas maganda yun sa mga commuters natin, lalo na sa mga nagko-commute sa malayo. Kasi lumuluwag na yung traffic, tapos marami nang makakasakay, marami nang makakapag-commute.
Nangangamba po kasi sa pang-araw-araw po, hindi pa man po napapatupad yung 70% capacity. Sa Qmart po, yung mga sumasakay na commuters, hindi na po nasusunod yung 50% nung una pa lang.
The results of the policy will be assessed before authorities can decide on whether or not to increase the capacity to 100%. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
Education officials and 100 participating schools gear up more than a week before the pilot implementation of face-to-face classes. Our Tristan Odalo joins us live from Quezon Province. Go ahead, Tristan.
Pia, a school in Polillo Island in Quezon Province is all set to take part in the limited face-to-face classes beginning November 15. Earlier today, we joined the field visit of the Education Department together with local and health officials in Tamulaya Elementary School, where 49 students from kinder to grade 3 will join the limited return to classrooms. And during 4 hours of sea travel from Real Quezon and 7 kilometers of land from the town proper of Polillo Island, we reached Tamulaya Elementary School. The school is equipped with hand-washing facilities, physical distancing markers, temperature screener, plastic barriers, as well as isolation and holding areas. Classes will be in shifting schedules. Students will either attend physical classes or do modular lessons. So far, the Education Department is satisfied with the preparations made by the school ahead of November 15.
This is a very important stage in the resumption of face-to-face classes on a wider scale. And as I mentioned, this visit provides us even greater confidence of our ability to do this successfully. Not a guarantee against any COVID incident, we know that.
Teachers share their excitement returning to in-person classes since the pandemic shut down schools over a year ago.
Talaga pong hindi po maipaliwanag ang saya at mga excitement na nararamdaman po ng lalo na po ng mga bata, mga magulang at lahat po ng mga tao pong naging parte po sa paghahanda po nitong limited face-to-face.
Dividing her time between work and teaching her first grader child, Jesselyn Ballesteros hopes this is the start of their return to normalcy.
Sana po magtuloy-tuloy na at sana po pati po hindi po lang itong elementary, pati po sana high school, yun po sa daladalangin namin na sana po magtuloy-tuloy na ito face-to-face sa mga bata.
The Education Department says that the assessment of the 100 participating schools for the limited face-to-face classes will be finished before the Christmas break, and this will be the basis on whether the department will recommend an expanded face-to-face classes nationwide. Back to you, Pia.
Tristan, how do the schools qualify for limited face-to-face classes?
Pia, the Education and Health Departments have released guidelines and criteria for schools who would like to participate in the limited face-to-face classes. But just to give you an idea, here in Polillo Island, the island has 0 COVID-19 cases in the last few weeks. All of the teachers are fully vaccinated. 32% of their adult population are also fully vaccinated. And then just to further strengthen their health infrastructure, a nurse is assigned in every barangay to monitor COVID-19 symptoms. So the health infrastructure is here, and these are some of the initiatives that are being implemented here in the island. Back to you, Pia.
Tristan Odalo there reporting. An independent research group says Metro Manila has already reversed the impact of the Delta surge. Octa research fellow Guido David explains the COVID-19 situation in Metro Manila is now the same as what it was in July before the surge began. Numbers in the regions have also seen a significant improvement. David says cases began to decline after a peak of 26,000 on September 11th, and when 40% of the target adult population in the National Capital Region had been fully vaccinated.
Actually, we have reversed the Delta surge already in the NCR. We are back to where we were before the surge. The good news is not just in the NCR. Everything is mostly, I would say mostly, yeah, it's mostly good news. There are still some areas in the country which still have a significant number of cases
Yes.
But most of them are already on a downward trend.
With the current rate of infection, David says the case count might not reach 3 million by year end, contrary to projections at the height of the surge. But he warns an uptick in infections is still possible as mobility restrictions are eased. And to keep COVID-19 cases low, people also count on the efficient distribution of vaccines. But is everyone willing to get their doses? Nearly 90% of the target population here in Metro Manila have been inoculated, yet many regions seem left behind. Carolyn Bonkin has that story.
Within 8 months, 88% of the target population in Metro Manila had been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. But many regions are lagging behind. Most have only covered 20 to 30% of adult population, like the Bicol region. At the bottom is the Bangsamoro region, with only about 10% of the population fully vaccinated. We asked these Bicol residents what's stopping them from getting immunized.
Abo ako magpabakuna, tamay namamatay ako sa lawas ko, sa labang ginawa ko.
Wala po akong balak magpabakuna. Saksakan ako ng isang bagay na wala naman po kasiguruhan yan. Experiment pa lang po yan eh.
Since I've been exposed to COVID patients since last year, I think I already have an acquired immunity, and that is even sturdier than being vaccinated.
National Vaccine Operations Center Chief Mirna Kabutahe says vaccine hesitancy remains a challenge. A survey shared by the Health Department shows at least 1 out of 5 people in these regions are vaccine skeptics. There was no available data for other areas like Bicol, Caraga, and Barm. But the primary concerns cited are safety and vaccine efficacy. Health officials reiterate COVID shots are safe and effective, as seen in the improving situation in Metro Manila.
It's having an impact in the sense na mababa yung ating mga kaso. We have less hospitalization and less deaths.
But Kabutahe says fewer people have been vaccinated in other regions like the Bangsamoro due to limited access to doses and slow-paced inoculation. Only selected brands may be used in far-flung areas due to lack of freezers, while some indigenous groups are often on the move, thereby missing their second dose. Other regions failed to fast-track their vaccine rollout despite having more supplies.
We have enough vaccines, so ang aming policy ngayon, we will give them 1 week supply para mai-job nila.
The health department is encouraging local governments to give incentives to the fully vaccinated in the hope of vaccinating 77 million Filipinos by end of November.
Kung hindi ka makuha sa moral persuasion, baka makuha sa incentive and disincentive.
A few months ago, several local governments gave out groceries, while the health department has an ongoing raffle for cash prizes just to encourage people to get vaccinated. In other areas, there are perks like discounts, indoor dining, and ease in travel requirements when you are vaccinated. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
Local chief executives may have some explaining to do after Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya disclosed that millions of daily vaccination reports have yet to be submitted to the national system. Malaya says 30% of LGUs do not give inoculation numbers consistently. The department is finalizing the list of officials who could be issued show-cause orders.
Dahil nga po sa delay na ito, meron po tayo mga 10 milyong vaccination data ang hindi pa uploaded doon sa system. Kaya minabuti po ni Secretary Anyo na isama ito doon sa mga datos at mga responsibilidad ng mga local government units. No? Posible po na mag-issue na ng show-cause order ang DILG laban sa mga LGUs na ito na hanggang ngayon ay hindi pa rin nagsasubmit ng updated data.
An Indian drug maker's homegrown COVID-19 vaccine approval from the World Health Organization. The agency granted an emergency use listing to Bharat Biotech's Covaxin, saying it met standards for protection against the virus. The decision was delayed after the WHO Technical Advisory Group sought additional clarifications from the firm. The experts recommended Covaxin's use in 2 doses with a 4-week interval for people 18 and above. A late-stage trial showed the vaccine is 78% effective against severe COVID-19. Coming up on Newsnight, more details about government medical supplier Pharmalee's alleged tax evasion as a Senate panel resumes its probe. More when we return.
O, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa
ng bawat Pilipino.
Para sa Step 1 registration, pumunta lang sa register.philsys.gov.ph para makapag-register sa PhilSys online. Ito ang PhilSys, ID natin to.
Using Doña Elena olive oil helps elevate the spices and flavors of my dishes, making their aroma and taste more delicious. I use Doña Elena not just for the restaurant, but also for cooking at home. For good quality oil, use it more at home because you are serving your family. Because you and your family deserve only the best.
Make it olive oil, make it Doña Elena.
From Flyers.
In everything you do, make sure you choose what's true.
We always follow our hearts, so true adventures come our paths.
Dreams and aspirations, giving spark to all our passions.
Stay true and you know what to do.
And choose the bonds that are true.
We choose what's true. We choose GSM Blue. Choose what's true. 'Cause all the more GSM Blue. Choose what's true.
Choose what's true.
Dahil ito ang GSM Blue.
Senators demanding answers over the alleged tax evasion by controversial government supplier Pharmaly Pharmaceuticals. They also grill former presidential advisor and Chinese businessman Michael Yang over his unpaid taxes. Amor Santos joins us live for the details. Amor?
Yes, senators pressed for answers pending the Bureau of Internal Revenue special audit on Pharmaly and other suppliers and personalities involved in alleged questionable procurement deals. Tax expert Mon Abrea says Pharmaly claimed paying 95 million pesos in income taxes last year when actual payment was only 21 million pesos based on its income tax return. He adds Pharmaly has 3.4 billion pesos in unsupported purchases. He says it's possible the medical supplier overstated expenses to reduce tax due.
Because doon po lalabas ang kalokohan. Pag nakikita natin, kung wala namang purchases na nagkakahalaga ng 3.4 billion, ibig sabihin, dinadaya po nila yung kanilang income taxes. Dinadaya nila ang taong bayan. Ang laki na nga na nakuhang negosyo, higit sa 10 billion. Kumita na nga sa overpricing, kikita pa sa pangdaraya sa pagbayad ng buwis.
As to how, paano yung mga accounting niyan, hindi ko talaga kabisado, and then I cannot comment on it kasi we're to inform the committee, we're under investigation of the BRO also.
Abrea is facing a complaint before the Professional Regulation Commission. Senators Richard Gordon and Kiko Pangilinan see it as a quote, harassment suit and expressed support for the resource person. Meanwhile, Pharmaly's alleged financier, former Duterte advisor Michael Yang, insisted he was not required to file ITRs as a Chinese national. He claimed he did not earn any money in the country before 2018 and that he only relied on financial help from family and friends. Gordon says these are all lies. He recalls Yang previously admitted to trading clothes and other goods in Davao City between 2005 and 2007.
Dargani has refused to produce them because doon po lalabas ang kalokohan. Pag nakikita natin, kung wala namang purchases na nagkakahalaga ng 3.4 billion, ibig sabihin, dinadaya po nila yung kanilang income taxes. Dinadaya nila ang taong bayan. Ang laki na nga na nakuhang negosyo, higit sa 10 billion. Kumita na nga sa overpricing,
Kikita pa sa pangdaraan.
Bola yan eh, 1999. Umpisa ka, nagnegosyo ka 2005. Alright? Hindi mo tinedeclare yung taxes dapat bigay mo. Nakakahingi ka ng pera. Come cheat ka nga eh, come cheat. Nagpaparasite ka sa kanila kung totoo yan. Hindi ako naniniwala doon sa sabi mo. Sabihin from the very beginning, nagbebenta ka na.
Gordon slightly deviates from the issue, saying President Duterte began being soft on China when Yang was his economic advisor. He asked Yang if he's an agent of the Chinese Communist Party, and the Chinese businessman denied this. Back to you.
More officials from the executive department and other personalities again skipping today's hearing upon President Duterte's orders. What did the senators have to say about this?
Yes, Pia, it's actually the fourth time that officials from the executive were a no-show. Senators are now preparing a petition before the Supreme Court against President Duterte's memorandum. Gordon says if there would be any delay in the hearing, President Duterte is to blame. The Blue Ribbon Committee also cites in contempt former Procurement Service Head Lloyd Christopher Lau. Gordon says Lau is now a private citizen, so he's no longer covered by Mr. Duterte's order. Meanwhile, formerly officials Mohit and Twinkle Dargani have not yet been arrested despite a warrant issued by the Senate. Pia.
Amor Santos there reporting. The late communist leader George Madlos, also known as Ka-Oris, was found positive for COVID-19. Madlos, a top commander of the New People's Army, died in a gunfight with government troops in Bukidnon last Saturday. The military says Madlos's body was cremated Tuesday following the release of RT-PCR results. It adds Afil de la Peña, the medical aide who was killed along with Madlos, also tested positive for the virus and was cremated. The Communist Party, which earlier called for an independent autopsy in the remains, questioned what it says was the unilateral decision to cremate the bodies. Guidelines on the handling of a COVID-19 positive fatality state the remains should be cremated within 12 hours after death. But the CPP-NPA accused the military of trying to get away with murder by burning all evidence on the pretext of COVID-19 protocols. Now, government officials commending ground troops in Mindanao following the recent killing of Madlos, as well as a leader of a radical group. In my 1-on-4 interview with the Armed Forces Chief of Staff and the three major service commanders, Army Commanding General Lieutenant General Andres Centino explains how significant this is for the government.
The death of Ka-Oris is very significant, considering that he's been the head of the Commission Mindanao for so long a time. He has been the spokesperson, and he has also been a member of the National Operations Command of the CPP-NPA.
Para siyang Chief of Staff?
Yes. Napakalaking position, and he has directed practically lahat ng mga atrocities committed by the NPAs in Caraga and Northern Mindanao. And I'm sure that with the death of Ka-Oris, we will see a significant beginning, perhaps, of the collapse of the communist terrorist group in that area.
General Centino, just recently a Daula Islamia leader was killed. So you had the Ka-Oris and then now itong si Salahuddin Hassan in Maguindanao. Is this also very significant for you?
Yeah, very significant is the neutralization of Salahuddin Hassan. He used to be the head of the Al-Kubar group operating in central Mindanao. He was a student of, or a protege of the late Malaysian terrorist Marwan. And that Hassan, his group was responsible for the series of bombings in central Mindanao, in Cotabato, even in Davao, and public market bombing in Davao last 2016. And we suppose that his neutralization would, again, also, just like what happened in Bukidnon, I think I would like to believe that his neutralization would signal the end of terrorist activities in central Mindanao.
Catch the premiere of this CNN Philippines special presentation, The Generals, on Saturday, November 6 at 7 p.m. Replays on Sundays November 7 at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos is not backing out of the race for Malacanang. This amid a petition to cancel his certificate of candidacy for 2022. Marcos's lawyer and spokesperson Vic Rodriguez says they are ready, whatever the outcome of the case may be. Rodriguez insists Marcos's failure to file income tax returns is not tantamount to tax evasion. Here's what he tells CNN Philippines.
Ang nature po kasi ng tax case is civil in nature, but with penal provision or penal clause. Kaya nga kung yan yung kasong binabandera nila, alam mo Pinky, ang naging hatol dyan ay magbayad lang ng fine. Walang imprisonment. At yan ay hindi sa hatulan sa kasong tax evasion. Maling-mali din yung sinasabing siya'y tax evader.
Marcos's camp also belittles the petition. Rodriguez calls it a weak case and propaganda led by, quote, yellow wannabe political assassins, unquote. Earlier, Marcos's team dismissed the plea to cancel his candidacy as nuisance. That petition was based on his conviction in 1995 by a Quezon City court over his failure to file income tax returns from 1982 to 1985. Now, in 1997, the Court of Appeals upheld Marcos's conviction for the non-filing of his annual income tax returns. Since that ruling about 24 years ago, the son of the late dictator mounted various campaigns for Ilocos Norte governor, congressman, senator, and even vice president in 2016. But why is this issue only being raised now? Commission on Elections spokesperson James Jimenez gives us an explanation.
Dumaan yan sa filing process noon. Dumaan yan sa proseso ng naghihintay ka na magfa-file ng cancellation. Dumaan yan sa proseso ng disqualification. Walang nag-file. I guess, I can't remember if anyone actually filed. Bottom line, walang nag-succeed in knocking him out of the contest.
COMELEC says it may reach a decision on the plea next month. Records available from its website show no petitions were filed to disqualify Marcos or cancel his certificate of candidacy in 2016 when he lost to Vice President Neni Robredo, another presidential aspirant now in a tight race. Petitioners argue Marcos's conviction because of tax violations disqualifies him from running in any election based on the tax and omnibus election codes. Still ahead on Newsnight, Android users are in luck. You can now play mobile games right on your Netflix app. Stay tuned.
Oh, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress. Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
Season to commemorate the brand's timeless taste and signature style, this iconic Filipino beer is releasing a limited edition Iconican, featuring a collaboration between two award-winning visual artists. One highlights the work of legendary cartoonist and national artist for visual arts, Larry Alcala. Admirers of the artist should keep an eye out for Alcala's trademark self-portrait somewhere on the can. Alcala's son Lauro says this was the artwork done by his father for the San Miguel Beer Centennial celebration many years ago and has now become a collector's item. Alcala's design is paired with the work of National Book Awardee Rob Cham. Fans of his popular silent comics and illustrations can add this Iconican to their collection.
For this can, I made a pattern where it was Filipinos just sharing a beer with each other and drinking and celebrating being Pinoy.
The limited edition San Miguel Pale Pilsen Iconican is available in select supermarkets and convenience stores, as well as SMB delivers until December 2021. The perfect beer regalo for this holiday season, the Iconican showcases how San Miguel Pale Pilsen continues to connect and bring people together across time and distance. Dahil with San Miguel Pale Pilsen, kahit kailan, walang iwanan. I'm Sam Sidwani, CNN Philippines.
You You're watching Newsnight. I'm Pia Ontiveros. When you hit pause on your favorite Netflix shows, you can press play on video games instead on the same app. That is, if you are an Android user. The streaming platform just launched its first set of mobile games for Android phones and tablets. Two are based off hit science fiction series Stranger Things. The other three are Shooting Hoops, Card Blast, and Teeter Up. Netflix says iOS support is coming soon. But as the company says hello to video games, it's also saying goodbye to one of its top shows. The biggest heist in the world is coming to an end, but will they pull it off? The trailer for the final season of Money Heist just dropped, and it leaves a couple of hints for fans on how the professor will fight to get the gold, and more importantly, his team out of the Bank of Spain. Money Heist Part 5, Volume 2 begins streaming December 3. It is 51 days before Christmas, and that is it for tonight. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
RPN Radio Philippines Network Radyo Ronda DXKT Davao Member Kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Every city or town center all over the country, you'll find a city hall or a municipio, the flag in front of it, a church and a plaza, and not far from the poblacion or right smack in the middle, a basketball court. And let's not forget, there's one in almost every barangay as well. Proof positive of the Pinoy passion for this team sport, where players are revered as showbiz celebrities, fueled by fans and fandoms. But what is it about players and coaches that make them want to transplant set skills, talent, and team dynamics from the basketball court to the political arena? It shouldn't be enough that popularity translates to votes. And if basketball is a game they love, will or do they enter politics with the same eagerness and fervor for people they will or do serve? Good evening, I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix. Filipinos love both basketball and politics. Our guests tonight fit the mold. Former professional basketball players turned politicians. Live via Zoom, we have former Ginebra Cager and Pasig City Congressman, Vice Mayoral aspirant Dodot Jaworski. And joining us here in the studio is multi-titled collegiate head coach, Quezon City's 3rd District Councilor, congressional aspirant Franz Pumaran. Good evening, gentlemen. So I'll say congressman, sorry, Konsehal Franz. You're going to join us. Well, we'll talk to you first in the first segment of the show. Second segment, kay Dodot Jaworski. Dodot, thank you very much for being with us. So please stand by on Zoom. So I was about to say, what should we call you? Konsehal? Bakit nga ba?
Well, that's what they've been calling me lately in my district. Anyway, good evening. Thank you for inviting me here.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
been a while since the last time I was you interviewed me.
Oh, yeah, quite a while.
Yeah.
Konsehal, because congressman, and then konsehal,
Yes.
because you've been a three-term councilor already. You've been in politics na daw for so long.
Yes.
3 terms as city councilor in Quezon City's 3rd district before you ran for Congress in 2010. And another 3 terms
Yeah.
before making this
Yes, this one.
second attempt at Congress. No?
Mhm.
So let's begin first with a question about why you wanted to go into politics in the first place, because parang big name in basketball, then all of a sudden magpolitika kayo. What made you think of going to politics, and what made you think you could win?
Well, actually, I was just an accidental politician. In fact, it didn't ever enter my mind. But we have roots in Quezon City. The first lady mayor was my lola. who just died recently, Adelina Rodriguez.
Okay.
Okay. And, one of the barangay officials where I'm staying approached me. They want to include me in their lineup. I told them, sige, bahala kayo, but I have no time to campaign. But lo and behold, I won naman, and that started my political career. If you base it naman, parang it's the same. You deal with people. Of course, basketball, it's you entertain, but with politics, you serve.
Okay. So accidental politician. It's
Yeah.
interesting, no? But the way people see it is that you did quite well, no?
Thank you.
As councilor, and you were re-elected twice pa after the first term, and then ngayon naka 3 terms kayo, no? So, but sometimes people say, kaya patatakbuhin ang basketball player or coach dahil parang artistahin, may star quality, you're popular, and it's one thing, that's one thing, no? But it's another to do well, no? So how easy or difficult was it for you to do well? Because as a councilor, syempre, that's legislative work, and you really did get serious, right?
Yes, I think based kasi as basketball players classified as celebrities, so normally your first try, you're treated as a novelty candidate. They'll vote you because of your popularity, but I can only speak for Quezon City, no? But after one term, if you don't perform, I guarantee you won't win again. But for me, I guess my track record will speak for itself. That's why I'm still here. They really support me. In fact, right now, parang they don't see me as
as a coach.
A coach or what. They because I've been the majority floor leader for under 2 administrations already. So ang treatment nila sa akin is talagang an official politician that really serve in my district, not only my district but in the whole Quezon City.
Majority floor leader of the city council, and therefore para siyang mini congress, right?
Yes.
Okay, so itong 6 terms in total.
Yes.
Preparing.
Yes, I think I'm quite being abreast already about legislative work. I think it's very rare that different mayor, you were the majority, then another new mayor is still the majority floor leader. I think that only is a testament of what you can do.
Yeah. Okay. Can you compare a little bit more basketball and politics? Like, for example, and this is the part where I will pretend that I understand basketball. Something like, the point guard is like the candidate himself. The coach is like the campaign manager. And for non-basketball fans, people who don't really understand basketball, explain first what a point guard is.
The point guard kasi normally is the extension of the basketball court. He handles the ball about 78% of the time. He's the one directing where to go and everything. That's a very good analogy, Pia. Point guard is a candidate. The coach is supposed to be the strategist, the campaign manager. And why did I say it's a very good analogy? I was a former basketball player. As a coach. So it's easy for me to go to to that transition, being a candidate, running for a higher position.
Okay, so para bang the leadership skills that
Yes.
you do
For me kasi,
the court, you transplant that to the political arena, ganun?
Kasi leadership is a job public service and vocation.
Okay, but there are also yung tinatawag na set skills, talent, what is it? The discipline? What?
Yes, of course, the discipline. Even in the council, I think they know me very well. I have certain parameters with regards in running the council. But of course, I have to weigh things, try to assess everything, because you should remember, in Quezon City, we have 38 councilors. So 37 of them, voted for me or whatever. They're all have mandates in their own respective districts. Malalakas ang boto na yan. But you really have to be careful in how to parang handle the whole council. Because you're not only representing the council, as well as the relationship between the executive and the legislative department.
Okay, and that's where the skills, the set skills come in also. No?
Yeah.
I want to ask you very briefly about what your plans are for the third district of Quezon City if you do get to Congress? And if you do get to Congress, will you feel like, oh, I can do this? Because na parang mini Congress ang
ako, speaking, I think I'm quite confident that I can easily adjust if, God's will that I'll get elected. Because what I'm doing right now, it's just like Congress. Mayor Joy was saying, you're really suited in Congress. Sabi ko, is it because mamakulit ako? I like to argue and debate.
And shepherd things along, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I'm with the NUP, National Unity Party. They recruited me. If you look at the list of the congressmen that they have, lahat yung mga
makukulit.
Makukulit. Yeah, you said it, makukulit. Si Kong PD, di ba, si Congressman Boyd Gonzales, di ba, sila Congressman Abante. So kaya nga I was fortunate. Sinabi ko, bakit ako ang nire-recruit nyo? Sabi na, because basically, we know what you can do. In short, maingay ka rin, makulit ka rin. But with regards to the programs, I set my program to 4 P's lang eh. So, yung pangkabuhayan, pangkalusugan, paaral, and parang yung para sa pabahay. Diba? All of those have been magnified during my term right now. We were able to address all those issues, and now I'm just going to another level, national scope per se.
All right. We'll have more of the political plans of Dr. Jaworski, who's joining us in the second part of the show, and Franz Mumaren when we return.
Oh, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. Still with us, Pasig City Vice Mayoral aspirant Dr. Jaworski and Quezon City Congressional aspirant Franz Mumaren. We're going to speak to Dr. Jaworski now. Dr., thank you very much for joining us tonight on the show. You're joining us via Zoom. Are you there? There you are. Hi. Okay. Well, let's begin with this now. When your dad, former Senator Robert Jaworski, first ran for the Senate and everybody knew he would win, what were you thinking at the time? Why do you think people voted for him? It's one thing to win, it's another thing to do well. Why do you think people voted for him at that time?
Actually, well, when you talk about politics, it's basically relationships with people. And my dad had been in the basketball limelight for the past 30 years prior to his Senate run. And he was very popular
and well loved
in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And at the end of the day, it's a matter of trying to make people believe that you're worthy of the votes that they can give you, that the trust that they can give you as a leader.
Yeah, and
so I think my father was able to actually, he ended up ninth on that particular race, and we were expecting actually. For him to place higher, but I guess we did not have the machinery that the other politicians had also at the time. But still, he was able to win, and he served the people proudly and well during his stint as Senate.
And when he got to politics and to the Senate, and you had a front seat as his son, what did you like and not like about it?
Actually, when we entered the Senate, yes, I was his chief of staff at that time. Of course, the expectations of people were quite high. But my dad poured his heart into his legislative work, just as he did, when he was in another field, which was basketball. He studied well. He did the work that needed to be done, and he actually passed a lot of pieces of legislation that to this very day are still being used. And unfortunately, as a sportsman, when you enter the field of politics, sometimes you're branded as a jock, which is sometimes unfair. And but at the same time, it also comes with its advantages because when you are, again, unlike other politicians, since basketball is the most popular sport in the country, the popularity gives you that name recall edge compared to other candidates.
Yeah, right. Being branded as a jock does get the votes. How did you make the decision to jump from basketball to politics much earlier? And, syempre people are saying, okay, so you have Dodo Jaworski, son of the Big J, entering basketball, I mean, it's every father's dream, no, to have his son enter the same field, no? And then now politics.
Actually, I entered politics before my dad did. I was a counselor in 1995, 3 years prior to my dad's senatorial stint. And then after his term in the Senate, I ran for congressman in the city of Pasig, where I was elected naman. No? So, kasi growing up, my dad always told us that whatever we had came from, is just because of the love of the people, for him in particular. They supported him, they watched his games, they bought his products, and whatever he has achieved, he said, it nanggaling yan sa tao, so it's our duty to give back to the people. And during my first run, I said maybe this is one way for me to be able to, give that back, give back the love of the people by joining public service.
Yeah, okay. Can you compare basketball and politics? I had asked Konsehal, I was about to say coach. I had asked Konsehal Franz the same question. Can you do that? Compare basketball and politics? What are those skills that you bring from basketball and transplant it from the court into the political arena?
I think there are some similarities, especially when you enter politics. You don't usually enter as an independent. You usually enter as a team. When you're part of a team, I mean, sports prepares you for that, and that's one of the good values that you learn as a sportsman. And you get to, again, it's dealing with people. It's being able to communicate with people, because when you're after the game, for example, after a basketball game, my dad always taught us that you have to spend time with the fans that watch you. You have to listen to them because they came out there to support you and cheer you on. In politics, it's also the same thing, because you have to develop personal relationships with people. It's a misnomer to believe that just because you're popular, people will vote for you. Especially at the local level, politics is all about relationships. So you have to build that trust with the people. You have to be able to, be able to touch them in their own communities, and be able to relate to them, be able to hear them out, be able to, listen to their problems, and hopefully come up with solutions also for them to know that who you are as a person, what you stand for. So again, it's building relationships and building that trust.
And now, though, that you're making a bid for the vice mayoralty post in Pasig as running mate to Vico Soto, how confident are you about winning?
Well, every time you enter an election, you put your yourself in the hands of the people. I mean, that's the essence of democracy. As far as my confidence is concerned, I was asked kasi by Mayor Vico to join his team early on this year. I mean, I admit that I was the last one, I was a latecomer in the game. But if there's one thing that I realized is during my former stint as congressman, I've been going around now, and people are still my old friends and leaders, the people that I've been able to help in the past, they remember the goodness that you've done, and they don't forget. And they're the ones who are egging me on and supporting and organizing for me now. And that the support has been overwhelming, and I'm very happy that things are going the way they are now. And slowly but surely, we're going to keep working. And again, if it's God's will, then hopefully we'll come out victorious with God's help.
We'll be back after a short break. This is Politics as Usual. Stay tuned.
Oh, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
This is Politics as Usual. Our guests on the show, Franz Pumaran and Dot Jaworski, Konsehal Coach Franz. In the past, you could juggle being a coach and a city councilor. And then this February, you decided to leave the Adamson Falcons as head coach. And by the way, you made the Final Four, no? The
Yes,
UAP because of you,
Yeah,
I suppose.
Thank you.
So that you could go into politics full time.
Yes.
So there is no turning back na ba? And why go into politics full time? Wala na ba talagang turning back? And what happens, sorry, dami kong tanong all at the same time. What happens if you lose? Are you going back to coaching? What goes?
Well, first of all, during this pandemic, it made me realize a lot of things. I was able to immerse myself with my constituents, the pandemic response. It made me see the whole picture. That they need somebody, a new voice that can really totally represent the district.
Why? Yung Garibal mo, the incumbent, is not representing the district?
I don't want to comment about that, no? But like what you said, you covered before in Congress. That's why you are called representative, because you represent the district. They are the extension of your constituents. You're the voice of your constituents. So they need a bigger voice in Congress to pass some legislative measure that can benefit the district per se.
Okay. And you are very confident about winning?
Well, I don't know if confidence is the right word. Maybe the right word is I'm prepared for next year's battle.
Nice word, prepared. Dr. Jaworski, I wanted to ask about your dad since we were talking about him kanina pa, no? How's he doing? He has this rare blood disorder or something, no? But we saw him very briefly in a video message when he was honored with commemorative stamps. So how is he doing? What is the prognosis?
Actually, he does have a blood disorder, but I can't really say that it's a rare blood disorder because we don't actually know what's actually wrong with him. The fact is that he has elevated ferritin levels, iron levels in his blood, and the cause of which is still unknown. We have sought the help of professionals, doctors both here and abroad. Unfortunately, we are still at a loss. There have been no particular diagnoses on what is actually wrong with him. So that's why we continuously ask for prayers so that hopefully we'll be able to find a solution to those issues, health issues.
Itong run mo for vice mayor, is this it for you, or will you want to go for higher office?
Actually, I did not have any plans actually going back to politics in this particular election next year. Again, Mayor Vico asked me to support him and help him run as his running mate. And, I started fighting for reforms 15, 18 years ago, actually, when I ran for Congress, and subsequently I ran for mayor. Unfortunately, things didn't fall my way during that time. But again, things all happen in God's time. Mayor Vico ran alone in 2019, and he won. He toppled a dynasty, a 3-decade-old dynasty in the city of Pasig, and actually Mayor Vico is making waves now. He's making changes that have been long overdue in the city, and we're very lucky to have a young, inspiring leader like Mayor Vico who's taking charge and making changes that have been long overdue. So I'm just here right now worried about, how I can fit in, I can make sure that he will be even more effective. And hopefully if I do win as vice mayor, we'll make sure that, all the reforms that he started will not only continue, but will, be actualized into, transforming the lives of the people in Pasig City.
I wish we had more time, but my executive producer told me last 2 minutes na, and time is up. So thank you very much for being on the show. To Dr. Jaworski first, thank you, sir, for being here, and Franz Pumar and Kong Sehal. Thank you very much. I won't call you coach na. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pio Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.
Oh, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.